The tip, he picture best open, unleashing chaos and monsters across the world until the system woke up hunters to save humanity. Thanks to those gates, 7 mighty noble families gathered so much power that they effectively ruled everything. Against all odds, our hero became the very first 9-star hunter in history, doing it all without ever needing to look at the stars. But that huge power made the 7 families see the kid as a massive threat to how the world works. Right now, the eastern capital is burning bright and turning into a living hell. Lying in the rubble and bleeding, the kid tries to figure out how they got here, while the Romanov family makes a loud entrance on the battlefield under their big banner. In the middle of the destruction, an old pocket watch begins ticking strangely, and our hero stares ahead in stunned disbelief at the weight of their defeat. With barely any strength left, he struggles to keep his knees from collapsing as the enemy gets closer. With pure hate burning in his eyes, the kid pours every last drop of his strength into cursing Dmitri. The old man walks right through the fire like it's nothing, making his slow way to the hunter who has fallen. Dmitri sneers with an arrogant grin, admitting he never thought he'd end up facing the great Japanese hero here, while the kid chokes on his own blood and asks just why they really want him dead. The old man bluntly admits he lacks the god's protection and still refuses to bow to the noble families, only to be met with open arms and a mocking laugh from the enemy who claims the stars themselves are calling for his end. After hearing all that talk, the immortal king stares at the old man with burning eyes, while our hero, furious and fuming, mutters that it's all just nonsense. Dmitri points his finger and tells the kid he's a heretic necromancer who messes with the rules of life and death. Immediately after, the villain calls down a blinding holy light and shouts that this is the true dividing line between them. Still trying to get up, our hero shouts that the enemy is celebrating way too soon. With the dark blue light glowing from his hands, the kid reveals why he's been so quiet until now. Out of the dark earth, dozens of skeletons crawl into the shadows while a cold wind rushes across the battlefield. He calls up the battlefield and brings the dead back to life, raising a huge column of dark power. Standing right in the heart of his army of the dead, the kid reveals that this magic burns his own soul to make it work. Seeing how stubborn the kid was, the old man was shocked and decided to return the favor by unleashing his strongest attack to destroy the kid's soul. With all its power, a huge bolt of golden lightning crashes down from the sky right into the villain's hand. As our hero faces the terrifying magic of the Eye of Odin and knows his own spell will fail, the old man doesn't hesitate a second and blasts a massive red beam that swallows everything in its path. The moment they clash, a burst of holy magic blinds everyone watching the fight. Even though he knows he's about to die, our guy grins wildly, decides that since he's falling anyway, might as well go crazy, while the old man stands frozen in shock with wide eyes, totally baffled by the enemy's wild reaction. The MC's bloody hand shoots out and snatches the old pocket watch. As the artifact of Kronos rises from the blast, the system announces that the activation requirements have been met. In that split second, the gears start spinning wildly, signaling that time is rewinding to the past as a blinding golden light suddenly fills the battlefield. Triumphant, the boy explains how he used the enemy's own star attack to power up the relic. Immediately after, the beam of light hits the watch and tears a hole right through the fabric of space. Desperate, Dmitri screams at the top of his lungs, begging the immortal king to explain what he just did. As the divine power fills the artifact, the cracks start to shine with a blinding light. With a rude gesture, our hero vows that in his next life, he'll throw all 7 families into the trash. A giant clock looms over everything, its hands spinning backwards so fast it looks impossible. Suddenly, a brilliant flash of white light wipes the timeline clean. Slowly, his sight comes back and the first thing he sees is the buzzing fluorescent light on the ceiling. The kid wakes up with a jolt, gasping in a cold sweat while lying in bed. The kid presses a hand against his chest and feels his heart hammering wildly, proving he is still alive. Still feeling a little dizzy, he looks around and quickly realizes he's back in the very house he used to live in. Our hero lies in his own bed, staring at his hands and wondering if that crazy stunt really worked. The memory of Dmitri's betrayal makes hate flash across his face again. He checks his items and sees the panel confirm the watch is truly broken, meaning time can never go back. The hero wore a cruel little smile as he cheered because his risky bet to steal the enemy's power had paid off big time. Suddenly, the screen flashed, demanding he pick a class. And he checks his level 1 stats. He sees that his natural mental resistance has stayed with him. With glowing choices for a fighter, a wizard, or a healer before him, the boy crosses his arms and recalls that in his past life, he picked the path of a wizard without even thinking twice. But now he realizes there's no hurry to pick a class right away. With a quick snap of his jacket on, our hero vows to use his peek-ahead knowledge to become ridiculously powerful this time. He left his house and walked straight to the big city center to reach the huge hunter market, where a very polite shopkeeper greeted him as soon as he stepped inside. As she shows off the jewels, the kid cuts in to ask about the ring of the underworld's darkness. The saleswoman stumbles back in fear, startled by the strange thing she's been asked to do. The woman stammers, warning that the ring is cursed with something terrible. The kid doesn't listen to the warning, hands over the fortune, and walks out with the black box. Still worried, the attendant remembers having the kid sign a waiver to clear the company of any blame. As our guy opens the box right in the middle of the street and chuckles to himself, knowing no one would pay $2 million for a debuff, the system pops up on his items panel to warn him that putting on that jewelry will get him swallowed by a mental attack. Knowing the ring's secret, our hero slides it onto his finger without a second thought. Suddenly, a wild purple glow bursts from him and wraps around everything nearby. With a wicked grin, the kid plots to push back the curse so he can steal the necromancer's secret summoning power. He gets dragged into his own mind and lands in an endless space filled with red clouds. As he stares into the empty darkness, his calm face melts away to show a look of pure deadly focus. In the pitch black, the terrifying spirit of that jerk, Dimitri, rises, showing that the hardest part of the test has finally started. Staring down the spiritual monster, the kid hears the enemy call him a manipulator of rotten flesh. Right after, Dimitri's illusion mocks him, sneering that a necromancer rejected by the stars has no hope of winning this fight. The old man doesn't waste a second. Instead, he clamps his hand into a fist made of blazing gold. As the enemy readies a cruel strike, he warns that even if you travel back in time, you still have no hope of winning. The pillar of energy crashes down like a meteor, proving the MC is utterly defeated. But the kid's face lights up with a confident smile as the system shuts down every mental attack. Thanks to his naturally sharp mind, his defense kicks in instantly and stops the attack without any struggle. Right away, the villain's fake world breaks apart like glass, showing that the ring's test is finally done. With eyes glowing blue, the hero shows that the only way to break the curse is to stop fighting it. Plugged in a huge dark glow, the kid vows that if he can't have the stars' help, he'll create his own. Suddenly the system shouts that his secret power is awake and the ring has jumped from rare to epic. Happy with the outcome, our hero watches the purple jewel glow brightly in his palm. Without even a moment's pause, the kid taps the floating screen and picks the necromancer class. While the panel nods in agreement with his choice, it also reveals a dark, evil skull marking the arrival of the new class. As the starter pack opens, the Guide of Death awakens and slashes the cost to bring your summons to life. Feeling pumped up by his quick success, the kid is thrilled his adventure is off to a great start, but when he checks his status panel, he sees he only has 2 skills unlocked so far. At the first level, you can only call forth the dead or command the bones. The kid realizes that knowing all the tricks in the ring isn't enough to break the game's limits, so while climbing to level 7 is easy, hitting the 9-star rank demands something extra. Standing outside, the protagonist thinks that turning into a necromancer so young is a great move, yet it doesn't promise a perfect win. He looks grim because he knows he needs a monster from the stars to smash Dimitri's face. The kid is taking a direct flight to a faraway island where old ruins are waiting. Dressed up like a tourist, the hero sneaks into the famous Temple of Kronos, right along with a crowd of other visitors. Local tales say that many old gods dimmed their light after losing to Zeus and the powerful rulers of Mount Olympus. Some mighty giants quietly gave up to stay alive as small constellations. The kid leaves the tour group behind to sneak into the secret ruins, where he stands before a broken stone altar and realizes the man who once owned this pocket watch met a far worse fate. With the relic held high, the MC shouts that it's time to talk to the god who has fallen. With every ounce of strength he had left, the hero slammed the watch down onto the altar's stone top. Just as they crash together, a flash of golden light blinds everyone and wakes the artifact's magic. The fabric of space and time twists and warps instantly, sending the pebbles swirling in a wild, strange dance. Suddenly, the kid is thrown into a strange new world and lands right in the middle of a forgotten place up in the sky. Before a huge stained glass window, a loud booming voice asks who is crazy enough to break into this holy place. Staying calm, the protagonist just gives a little smirk. From the darkness, the giant angry titan steps out to ask who the rude fool is. The hero looked the god in the eye without a shred of fear. The kid sends a super sarcastic hello to the Death Realm King of the Titans. The ancient god stares hard at the tiny human, his eyes narrowing with pure hate. To make his point, the MC casually lets the pocket watch's chain hang from his fingers. Looking at the strange object, the giant asks if that mischievous kid really did turn back time. Shrugging off the praise with a cocky grin, the kid admits to the feat, which makes the giant realize this former battle-hardened fighter was just woken up, prompting the giant to ask why he was brought back. The hero taunts the god by reminding him of his humiliating defeat and total loss, leaving him as nothing more than a forgotten name. With a cruel grin, our guy gets straight to the point and asks if the old man doesn't want revenge, so the fallen god is utterly shocked and asks the kid to repeat this crazy offer. The MC makes a deal with the god to become his constellation so he can finally get perfect revenge. Fuming with rage, the titan erupts in a fiery red glow, furious that a mere human dares to challenge Olympus. The kid grips the chain around the artifact tightly as he gets ready to make his last stand. With total confidence, the hero points out that he alone climbed the 9 stars, and even Zeus is now on his list of enemies. Plus, the kid isn't just mad at the Romanovs, he's furious with all 7 powerful families on the planet. With a dark laugh, the giant says that wiping out Olympus's army will stop the gods from controlling Earth, but the old man asks why someone chasing godhood would pick the heretical class of necromancer, and with a sly grin the kid replies that their paths seem opposite only if you judge them by the god of time. But the hero's winning move is to turn his attention to the Titan sibling, the harvest god, whose symbol matches the Grim Reaper and ties him straight to the dark magic of raising the dead. With his pride hurt, the Titan lets out a roar and tells the human to stop acting superior and comparing his godly light to death, then rages so hard with an impossible pressure that the temple pillars begin to snap in two. Planting his feet to stand firm against the wind, the MC yells that there's no time for nitpicking and shoves the truth right in the giant's face, daring him to choose between rotting away nameless forever or facing his powerlessness. The kid shouts that if the god wants to stay a coward, it's his own choice, and with a pointed finger, the hero invites them to join him in taking back their power and destroying everything. Inside, the kid is drenched in sweat, terrified that if his bluff fails, he'll lose his second life right here, but after a tense moment, the giant god lets out a slight laugh. With his hand stretched out, the giant admits he never forgot his revenge and challenges the kid to prove how strong he's become. Standing beside a glowing orb, the giant warns that twisting a god's heart will bring pain beyond words. The gold timer stares at the hero's chest and says he'll turn into his constellation, but only if the hero can take the weight of it. Suddenly, the whole temple lights up and the sky bells start ringing wildly, leaving the kid so shocked he panics and wonders if the deadly test is beginning right now. Suddenly, a blinding light hits the kid and the god's voice calls him a saint. The hero is so shocked that he can't believe he suddenly became the highest divine leader. With that holy power surging through him, the hero turns into a blazing pillar of light. The worst part is that his dark necromancer aura clashes violently with the divine energy, tearing him apart from the inside, yet he fights hard not to pass out because if he blacks out, he loses the constellation forever. High above, the god of time watches with a patient smile to see if that cheeky human can actually survive their own crazy fusion. The kid's body burns so bright with terrible pain that the godlike and dark forces finally blend together inside him. With his teeth gritted, our hero whispers to himself that he must survive this at any cost. While back in the real world, heavy boots drag a suitcase down a long airport hallway. After taking a deep, relaxing breath of his home air, the kid smiles with relief while the MC declares that Japan is simply the best place on Earth. Suddenly, a tiny version of the Titan floats beside him, watching the modern world with wonder, while the flying god scans the tech below and calls the passing of time both magnificent and cruel. Just as the system announced a new star joining the pantheon, and the old-timer chatted with his contractor, the annoyed protagonist snapped at the god for being so snobby about not even granting blessings. Even without any followers cheering him on, the hero sees that the Titan is overjoyed just to be back. To regain their lost glory, they must rebuild Kronos' reputation from the ground up by embracing the power of a soul reaper. As the little god's excitement shows that returning from eternity is already a huge win, the old man complains about the hard work it took to turn the kid into a saint and demands they spread his name fast. Staring at his new status, the kid can't believe he's a priest necromancer, and as the ultimate reward, the panel reveals his title as the White Knight Saint, letting him blend holy and dark magic without any cost. As the kid checks his spells, he finds a new power that can drain life energy from enemies. His hands glow with a ridiculously powerful purple and gold aura, born from the clash of light and dark. The kid is shocked to see his magic break the system's rules, while the floating titan laughs and brags that he planned it all because he used to be the king of the gods. Our hero rests his hand on his chin, already thinking hard about what he'll do next. Keeping a smile on his face, he chooses the gate in the Furuzuka region for now, a place called the Elder Garden filled with weak monsters perfect for testing his new skills. Right in the middle of the sidewalk, a huge blue rift stands open, linking worlds and drawing eyes, and since it's an easy level 1 gate, even newcomers can step right through. As the kid reaches the edge of the dimensional barrier, he watches the busy hunters working around him. Near the rift, a bunch of green-horned hunters are yelling and trying to find teammates to start their adventure. Our hero ignores the noise and walks silently through the crowd, eyes locked on his goal. Suddenly, a skilled hunter steps up to the kid and asks them to come along with his group. The kid politely turns down the offer, insists on working by himself, and walks right into the portal. Standing there in stunned silence, the team watches the new guy walk into the dungeon all by himself. The hunters worry the kid is too weak to face the dungeon alone. The leader quickly stops the team from helping the newbie who refuses aid, while the protagonist, far away, cracks his knuckles and gets ready to use his new power without any interruptions. Once you step past the barrier, the world suddenly shifts into a thick, sun-drenched forest. While the kid walks slowly through the woods, he notices the air feels too quiet. From the rustling leaves, he knows it's time for a monster ambush, so with a wicked grin, our hero waits for his first prey to come near. From way up in the trees, a dark shape darts down fast, aiming straight for the MC's head. A hideous goblin swings a rusty dagger to surprise the kid and try to slice his head open. With a perfect reflex, the kid calmly leans back to dodge the blow. Face first on the ground, the creature grunts with hatred and lunges to attack again. Our hero, acting like a white knight, grabs the monster's face and thanks it for giving itself up willingly. As the spell drains the beast's life force until its body is empty, the kid feels the magic flowing and says that mixing spiritual and holy power feels completely natural. In a flash, the poor monster drains of all its power and drops to the ground as nothing but a dry, empty shell. Surrounded by a dark green glow, the MC's body takes in every bit of the creature's power after it falls. As soon as the kid takes down the enemy, pop-ups flash on the screen to show that his basic abilities just got a boost. The hero is blown away by the realization that he can pump up his stats forever just by draining enemies in the dungeon. In his head, he figures that killing 25 goblins will finally push him up a whole level. Suddenly, the tiny giant pops back onto the kid's shoulder to watch the mess, laughs, and asks if the kid liked the power, which the kid agrees was pretty ridiculous. Boasting with pride, the old-timer demands praise, and while the MC agrees his skills are unmatched, our hero spots the dry husk on the ground and knows it's the perfect material for his main class. With a ghostly green glow gathering in his palm, the necromancer grins and announces that the real fun is finally starting. As you pour your power straight into the dead body, the dark energy rushes through the monster's dry veins. The kid flashes a mischievous grin and shouts the spell to bring the dead back to life, and instantly, the monster's fingers start twitching wildly on the grass. With a creepy snap, the goblin's body jumps up from the ground surrounded by death flames, and its new zombie master stands right behind, waiting for its first order. The system flashes a success message on the panel, showing the new undead creature has kept almost all of its original power, and the status screen now reveals the rank of the kid's first summon. Feeling proud of the outcome, the child knows this helper is all they need to speed up the work in the Elder Garden. Going deeper into the woods, the evil pair quickly spots new guards, but suddenly a group of angry goblins jumps out from the bushes to block their way and attack. They stand tall and fearless, staring the enemy right in the face without backing down or asking for help. The kid grabs the chance to test his strength, yelling out the attack order to his monster. The zombie shoots forward like a missile to tackle its own kind. The undead bites down on the first victim's neck without a second thought, sending blood flying everywhere. In a last-ditch fight for its life, the goblin stabs the invader to break free from the deadly hold. Without feeling a thing, the lackey keeps ripping the enemy apart while the kid laughs at their struggle, telling them that stabbing a dead person won't work. Enraged by the death of his friend, a tiny beast wields a club, swinging hard to smash the summon's head. Just as the blow is about to hit, the hero uses a distant power to drain life and tells the little creatures not to forget him. With every last bit of life drained away, the enemy collapses dead and frozen on the grass. The last goblin trembles with fear, staring at the kid while surrounded by a bloodthirsty zombie. The last goblin screams and sprints in terror, only to crash straight into the zombie's sharp claws. Seeing the way ahead clearly, our hero tests the life drain on the monster's empty husk to see if it works on a corpse. The kid is thrilled as the magic boosts his power again, then he gives a wicked grin and tells everyone it's time to speed up their hunt in the dungeon. Back in the old days, the great necromancer master said that once you beat your first enemy, half the job was done, so the kid looked at the dry corpses and knew exactly what to do next. With a quick spell, the forest fills with new undead minions rising from hell. The system panel buzzed with alerts, confirming the 4 new zombies are still nearly as strong as they were. The kid stands in a cruel pose, claiming this is the real truth of his broken group. From the hero's point of view, there is no greater joy than relaxing while his army handles the hard work. Just like a spreading plague, the undead trample over any goblin foolish enough to cross their path. In a savage moment, one of the minions rips its hand deep into the living monster's back, furiously tearing at its flesh. With no chance to fight back, the summon snatch their victims by the neck and crush everything in their path. Confused by their own massacre, the goblins struggle to realize they're being hunted by the dead. In a terrible bloodbath, the zombies tear the whole crowd apart in just a few seconds. From the safety of the back, the tiny giant grumbled at his boss to fight with some pride. The kid, who doesn't care at all, holds up his green glowing hands and tells the old man he's going to have to get used to dealing with a necromancer. Once the slaughter is done, the system beeps to tell you that you've hit the limit of 20 controllable undead. As the kid slowly closes his fingers, feeling the heavy new power of death settle on him, his 20 goblin zombie minions gather around, ready to follow their dark master toward their next bloody hunt. Suddenly the whole horde bolts toward the hunters in the center who are already fighting monsters, while a skilled archer shoots flaming arrows that blast goblins into the air. Ambush turns the monsters against the humans, one nearly getting sliced in half, so the MC, riding his army, shouts to stop and watches the group he just found. Spotting movement in the woods, the kid folds his arms and challenges the shadowy pair to come out. From the hidden bushes, a heavy boot steps onto the ground, giving away the onlooker's location. The head of the new group stared at the kid in disbelief and asked who on earth was controlling so many monsters. Beside the hero, the giant titan lets out a bored sigh while the kid zeroes in on the pair that just showed up. The kid strains to remember, then spots the trackers and calls them his shadow twins. Echoing with anger, our hero recalls that these two folks tried to kill him in a past life. Later known as Human Rendo, that famous pair of sharpshooters was a real headache for our heroes. The kid hides his anger, resting his chin on his hand as he thinks that back then they were just one-star hunters. So by the MC's logic, the brothers are still too weak to have a personal reason to hunt him down this early. The kid looks at the idea of getting rid of both of them right there in the woods to stop any trouble from coming later. Feeling the heavy tension in the air, the nervous team leader points at the zombie and asks if the kid is controlling it. The MC hides his true plans, taps his face with a casual gesture, and notes that few people know about the necromancer class at this early stage. With the strange army trailing right behind him, the hero casually tells them that those ugly creatures are his personal summons. Staying focused on his main goal, the kid quickly checks the pile of bodies, figuring out that since these hunters fought for cash, they'd make perfect pack meals. The kid jumps in and offers to join forces, so the MC cuts straight to the chase. He'll handle the monsters while the team collects the magic stones for easy money. He stands there with his arms crossed, deep in thought about the strange offer from the young necromancer. Off to the side, the sniper brother whispers to the big guy that you can't trust someone with such a murderous vibe, while the girl shakes like a leaf and agrees, terrified at the thought of walking around with zombie monsters. With a sneer, the kid spots that the team is about to say no. The big guy, seeing the danger, quickly shouts his agreement to the deal, shocking the team, but the leader insists on a fair 50-50 split instead of the 20% they were offered. Knowing he was being too generous, the kid shoots down the counteroffer, warning that they either take the 20% or he's leaving alone. So desperate and confused do the others become that they pull on the leader's cloak, begging if they're really gonna work with the weirdo. The big guy cuts through the amateur's chatter with no patience, telling the team to shut up because if the newbie wanted them dead, they'd already be dead. Once the deal is done, the team sets off behind the zombies to track down the scary necromancer master. As they march deeper along the bright, flower-strewn path, the growing sea of dead soldiers terrifies the hunters, and one exhausted sniper finally collapses, begging for a rest. Totally drained, the other member sank onto the grass, admitting she'd reached her absolute limit. The group leader broke into a cold sweat, stepped back from the squad, and realized he knew the kid was strange, but never like this. In the vast open space, a terrifying mountain of bodies lay piled up, proving just how much destruction the summons had caused. The annoyed hero poked the zombie's arm and told it he'd left behind some very useful dead bodies when he rushed out. The big man hesitates and asks the team to take a rest, but the MC ignores them and instead presses his fingers into a living goblin to drain its life force with his holy magic. The kid grabs everyone's attention, wipes his hands, and yells for the new team members to keep collecting right there. The hero forces a smile and tells everyone to take their time, while the three partners sit on the rocks, staring at the carnage with pale faces as they realize the kid isn't human. The kid steps over the piles of sliced-up bodies, confirms he's cleared the whole common area of the dungeon, and then pulls up his system screen to take a quick look at how his stats grew after the slaughter. The chart shows he was amazed by how fast he grew, gaining nearly 21 vitality points in just 3 hours of farming. The kid grins at how he's now as strong as a level 4 hunter after just one level, then shuts his menu and vows to crush the area boss. As the team ventures deeper into the forest, a gloomy shadow falls over the trees, and they push forward into the red zone. An army of 20 undead marched into a foggy field right up against the enemy's camp. Before long, a strange goblin shaman clutching a skull spots the invading army right at the edge of the land. The kid laughs loudly at the shaman's silly pose, pretending to be a king with his own underlings, while the frightened girl clings to the MC and begs him not to anger the southern chief. Filled with rage from being mocked, the monster leader grabs his staff and stares at the nosy human with pure hatred. Answering the call of fury, the whole goblin army charges forward, eager to turn the invaders into mincemeat. Our hero gives a harsh command to his zombies, telling them to rip the enemy's flesh right off his bones. Without hesitation, the summons leaps right onto the huge monster. Amidst a blood-soaked rage, their claws tear through the beast with no mercy at all, until the system counts only 19 minions left, proving one is dead, yet the calm, icy kid just commands the fallen creature to obey. Dark magic wraps around the zombie's broken body lying on the forest floor. As shadows bring the summon back to life, it jumps right back into the killing, and the undead horde attacks with all its might again. Stunned by what they see, the new hunters can't believe the kid just made a dead body fight for them, while up on the hill a goblin shaman stands up from his throne and shouts in his strange tongue. With his staff held high, the monster boss calls upon an ancient power. Just as the bravery totem crashes down to the earth, it sparks a surge of courage across the whole troop. That magic makes the goblins' eyes glow red and pushes them forward, so they rush ahead even though they are scared. The chief struts around with confidence, bragging that his magic spell will make sure the mob wins for sure. Just as he stops speaking, the shaman spots a sneaky zombie creeping up behind him with a skull, and the monster turns around, confused by the scary figure standing right there. With pure rage, the shaman bellows in fury because a bold human just smashed his sacred totem. With a furious crash against the earth, the chief readies his magic weapon to strike back while the strengthened goblins charge headlong into battle, slashing down anything in their way. The dead rush forward like living shields to block the enemy's blows, while the furious dungeon leader grips his staff and clenches his teeth in rage. With that same sneer, the MC asks if the ancient beast is finally getting angry. With rage burning in his heart, the shaman pours all his magic into his weapon's skull, while the chief screams and summons madness to curse everyone nearby. While the new team cowers in the back, they feel the crushing weight of the powerful spell. When the power overcomes them, the goblins gain 50 stat points and go absolutely berserk. With 3 times their power, the tiny monsters rip the first zombie apart and slash through the rest of the army, shrinking the horde to just 15 in a flash. As one more rotting foe crumbles into dust and drags the score down to 10, the brave group is pushed back until only 8 warriors remain. After a quick math, the kid realizes the skull staff is the enemy's strongest weapon, but when the shaman boasts it's made of dead goblin hate, the kid just laughs and points out it's actually just bone. The MC's eyes went cold and empty, and he knew with a sick feeling that he had already won. With no wasted words, the hero cast the bone magic to grab hold of the chief's hand. The shaman is totally taken aback when the weapon suddenly jumps to life on its own. The staff flies free from the monster's grip, the protagonist snatches it on instinct to break the madness, and the panicked goblin chief stammers, begging to know what cheap trick that was. Once the magic fades, the goblins take a huge hit to their power and become completely useless. The former king of the hill, terrified and holding nothing, doesn't know what to do. Holding the bone, the MC taunts the monster, daring it to cast the curse again. Looking at the system panel, it was obvious that the bone manipulation skill was the perfect answer to the fight. Just to be reckless, the kid remarks that the grudges clinging to his head actually helped drag the weapon down faster, then cynically hurls the staff behind him to declare the game no longer any fun. To put an end to it, the kid throws a creepy shadow straight at the shaman's chest. With its body frozen solid, the huge monster just opens its red eyes wide as the final blow comes crashing down. The goblin leader is struck square in the chest, crumples to his knees in total defeat, and face plants onto the grass as he waits for the final blow. The beast stomps on the priest's back to drain his life force, then gloats as his power, strength, and magic explode after killing a boss. With a heavy sigh, the hero finally sees that his excitement cost him a tiny bit of advantage. He stays as calm as a cucumber, turns his back, and walks back to the newbie team. The necromancy rules demanded fresh blood, but he drew out the body too fast. Feeling bad about the nearly empty vial, the MC grumbles that he ruined his collection by sucking all the life out of that creature. Standing before the big guy, the kid passes the cleanup duty to him, telling him it's the whole team's job. Looking at a huge pile of chopped up bodies, the new guys take a deep breath and face the scary thought of being forced to work like slaves. With the mission done, the view shifts back to the towering skyscrapers of the big city. One by one, the little kids' footprints show they've safely made it back to the grown-up world. Outside the rift, our hero steps out of the dungeon looking as fresh as if he'd just taken a morning walk. Right behind the kid, the new recruits struggle to take even a single step while their backpacks, packed ridiculously full with magic stones, drag them down, and outside, the crowd stands frozen in shock, unable to believe that just 4 of these newbies managed to gather so much treasure in a single dungeon run. Pleased with what he'd done, the boy thinks they should sell all their stuff right now to a big shop owner down the road. Wanting to help, the big guy refused, noting that they'd bargained for themselves to guarantee their boss the best profit. Our hero gives a scary look and jokes that you can't trust millions of dollars with people you just met. The big guy is so tired he's almost in tears, arguing until the kid finally admits he was just playing a prank. The team leader crunches the numbers and declares that the raid will easily bring in 6 million. The Gil reaches into his bag, grabs the holy treasure, and shows everyone the chief's skull staff. Holding the cursed weapon, the MC sighs and admits that sadly, it's nearly worthless on the street. System screen warns that only clerics can wear this item, which makes it almost worthless to sell. The kid stays calm and explains that regular clerics can't use the staff's spiritual power, so he casually decides to keep the weird weapon for himself. The hero looks only at the money and tells the leader to take the staff's worth out of the final cash split before everyone gets their share. Right away, the big guy claims they'd never have survived or gathered all that loot without him, so he insists they won't charge a single cent for the weapon. The twins didn't even complain, they nodded to their boss and let the hero take the legendary item for nothing. Outside the rift, the boy quietly tells himself that he really had fun helping that innocent group out. In a warm tone, he waves goodbye and invites us to explore another dungeon together tomorrow. Before you know it, the old days are gone and a fresh journey begins at dawn. Back in the Elder Garden, the system panel lights up showing you've opened the first door, and right away, your summoned hero strikes deep into the neck of the day's first monster. The hero's cold eyes spot that the new group is already worn out way too early. With bodies all around, the team leader drops to his knees and begs just a second to catch his breath. The huge man is so winded from running through the dungeon that he can't take one more step. He points to his bulging backpacks and insists there's no room left for any more treasure. Pleased with their haul, the MC sends the team back to base with the day's earnings. Stranded alone in the forest, the kid stands before a floating giant who demands to know why he really sent the crew away before they got there. Gripping the staff, the kid insists he needs total privacy before he does his next thing. As he walks north into the darkest part of the Elder Garden, where thick plants hide dangers near a muddy river, a figure jumps out of the water and splashes mud on the necromancer kid, prompting the MC to back away just as a trio of weird frogmen land and surround him, charging forward with war cries and spears ready to strike, but the goblin lackey dodges the first hit, letting the weapon just graze its face. While a giant red-eyed frog leaps into the summon's blind spot, its spear shoots through the zombie's chest and shatters the empty shell of the poor little monster. As the number of living minions drops from 20 to 18 in a flash, the undead are overwhelmed and can barely stop the sudden swarm of new water creatures attacking them. The kid looks at the scene with a cold head and decides that those frogmen are way stronger than the goblins. Without a second's hesitation, the kid snaps on the potion control and blasts a stream of dark magic straight at the creatures. As one monster freezes from a cursed energy blast to the face, the others get soaked in spooky oil that makes them super easy to hit. Gritting his teeth, the hero pushes all his power into one final move to end the fight right away. The MC charges in and smashes the first frogman's face flat, then uses his glowing staff to shatter another monster's skull with a blast of magical power. The kid lands perfectly on the grass without a scratch, watching the pools of blood spread across the ground. He keeps moving and uses his mind to pull the dead bodies over with his bare hands. The hero realizes that keeping his goblin horde alive wastes too much mana, so the glowing Raise Undead option on his screen instantly drains a huge chunk of his spirit power. Even though it's expensive, the kid grins like a villain, sure he can pull it off without any trouble. Following the master's command, the frogmen corpses twist and rise, their eyes burning with a green light. The moment the hero rises from the dead, a message flashes on his screen confirming he's level 6, and with a surge of excitement, he realizes he's on track to reclaim the ultimate power he once held. A fierce dark picture of Dimitri burns through the kid's mind, reigniting his deadly hate. Then the view shifts to ancient stone ruins hidden deep inside the Elder Garden. The zombie horde moves behind the kid as he carefully checks out the ruined buildings. His hands are dark with black blood, as he tightly grips the still beating heart of the frog chief he just killed. Curious about the ritual, the tiny god of time floats by to ask what the master plans to do next. With laser focus, the kid demands silence and pours the goblin shaman's blood directly onto the heart, causing the strange organ to puff green smoke and melt away in his burning hands. The hero grins as the spooky chemical mix lights up the old ruins. Right away, the green light uncovers a secret tunnel hidden for years, and the panel cheers on the player while whisking them away to another dimension. A bright light transforms the flower-filled woods into a huge gladiator-style coliseum, and the boy carefully steps onto the sandy floor of the massive circular arena. Looking at the empty seats, the announcer notes that his weak past self could never have even reached this spot, but suddenly a huge wind blast sweeps the arena, pushing the hero and his zombies back as a massive scaly paw steps down from the sandstorm, shaking the ground. With smoke slowly clearing, the kid stands ready to face the beast just as the system announces the trial, forcing the hero to prove he can survive. And before him, a huge draconian monster flexes its bulky muscles and radiates deadly rage, a beast the gods once made just to find the strongest human hunters. Because the rules were so cruel, the dragon army sent its toughest fighters to the Colosseum, where a panel would hand out rewards only if you could survive the beast for 10 minutes or less. The Titan god laughs in pure disbelief, daring the level 6 newbie to last even 10 seconds. With his usual self-belief, the kid laughs off the mockery and tells the old man that the draconian will be the one to lose the fight. Even though he had the upper hand, the MC knew the enemy was tough enough for a level 1 fight, and it still felt like a nightmare, so the furious dragon monster slammed its claws into the sand and prepared to slaughter everyone in the arena. The kid instinctively slaps his hand over his eyes and yells for the beast to hold off while he waits to turn into his superpowered form, leaving the confused dragon frozen in mid-charge with silly sweat drops on its huge head. The kid uses the distraction to blast his magic into the frogman minions, turning them into something bizarre. The system buzzed with a message saying the goblin's poison had merged with the zombies to create a new plague zombie, and the Titan was so impressed by the kid's ability to tweak living minions in the middle of a fight without any prep that he gave a shout-out. With his fresh army of undead ready to fight, the necromancer spreads his arms wide and calls the dragon to join the battle. Furious at being tricked, the monster locks its blue eyes on the human, then smashes the arena floor to leap straight at the zombie army. He tears through the wind at such a crazy speed that even the dust can't keep up with him. To keep their master safe, the poison frogs leap at the giant to stop his charge. As the plague zombies hug the draconian tightly, they push their deadly poison right into his tough skin. Suddenly surprised, the giant monster's eyes go wide with shock as the acid melts through its armor, forcing it to desperately stretch out its arms to tear the summon off its skin. The protagonist squeezes his fist with no mercy, crushing his own minions to melt the creature's scales in a deadly spray of poison, then grins like a devil as he explains that sacrificing the frog's brute strength was just the move needed to unleash a lethal level 12 acid attack. The draconian roars out in agony as its whole body starts to crumble apart from the poison. Blinded by rage, the beast lunges forward, smashing the arena floor in a final desperate charge to kill the human. While the huge monster charges like a missile to grab the kid's neck, the calm hero in his pockets jokes about how tough the beast is against acid. In a split second, the kid lifts the staff to his face to brace for the beast's massive weight, realizing that even with half its strength gone, the monster is still terrifyingly heavy. Knowing the danger, the necromancer pulls his arm back and hits the dragon's broken chest with a blast of magic. With no chance to stand, the draconian flies backwards, screaming in pure hate and shame while the MC instantly points his free hand at the air to command the bones to obey. With its tough skin gone, the magic reaches inside to snap the beast's legs from the inside out. Kneeling in the sand, the dragon lets out a sharp cry as its own bones shatter. The perfect start, the hero points at the poison zombies and orders them to charge forward, leaving the giant cornered and barely standing while the green swarm crawls over it like ants. Surrounded by thick, stinging smoke, the huge monster drops to its knees and slams its fist onto the ground, letting out a final weak grunt as its fight ends. The legendary warrior, eaten away from the inside out until he is just a shapeless pile of scales and poison, falls before the cold, calculating kid who admits the monster fought with honor right to the end. On the arena floor, the mighty dragon warrior ends his life in defeat, lying face down in the dust. Pleased with the loot, the hero's staff drains the dark essence from the fight, and as he spins it between his fingers, he lets out a heavy sigh of relief, walking beside the fallen giant in the quiet aftermath. He pours every last drop of his holy power into the rotting beast, and as the magic finishes draining its life, the system confirms he passed the test, prompting a nearby titan to cheer for his clever poison trick, while the kid grumbles that the real treasure is still lying on the ground. With mana swirling around him, the necromancer shouts that a dead dragon is the most precious thing in the world. The MC taps his chin and recalls he'll need advanced alchemy tools to handle a carcass this size. When you return to the city, the view shifts to a crowded industrial area tangled with electrical wires and packed with tall buildings. The kid stands before a crumbling warehouse, peering into the dusty remains of a lab that once belonged to a genius. The hero lets out a nostalgic sigh, realizing this dump looks exactly the same as it did before he came back. Slipping inside, the sharp chemical smell makes the kid cough and pinch his nose with his sleeve. Inside the lab, a wall of smoke parts to show an unlucky researcher stumbling out of another blast, and with a huge grin, the kid knows he finally found the right mark. In the chaos, the blonde alchemist brushes away the smoke while grumbling about his failed experiment. From the MC's memory, a strange boy waves to stop the cleanup and introduces himself as Ryoga Channon, boldly asking to use the lab's special tools so he can soon become Reni Shintani, the genius behind Japan's famous cheap healing potion. The alchemist, surprised and stung by the rudeness, twitches his eyebrow and retorts that the visitor must not be so impolite, only for the hero to immediately shut the complaint down, insisting he won't take free help and offering a fair deal instead. With that scary look, the kid hits the mark by pointing out that the researcher is having trouble keeping his healing potion stable. The alchemist caught red-handed stammers in fear, unable to figure out how a stranger knew about his biggest secret. As the MC hops up to grab some test tubes and vows to fix the formula, a frantic blonde guy tugs at his hair, screaming that their wild mix is about to blow them both up any second now. The kid sets aside his own doubts and speaks the hard truth. Even a genius would need many years to master alchemy on his own. The hero snatches a razor, rolls up his sleeve, and meets the researcher's gaze before slashing his arm open, pouring a green liquid that hisses as it makes his skin smoke and seal the wound instantly. In just a few seconds, the wound snaps shut, showing just how powerful the new potion is, and the scientist stares in total shock, his eyes wide with amazement at the instant healing. The genius holds up the glowing test tube, shouting with joy that the formula is finally stable, then shakes the kid's shoulders so hard to get every detail of the process, making the boy push him away while promising to share the recipe. The researcher is so amazed by the alchemy that he begs for the secret, even if it means making a deal with the devil, where the hero teaches him potion making and recipes in exchange for lifetime use of the tools, while the necromancer grabs half the future profits as his fee. With a tight swallow, the researcher knows he's trapped in a deadly trap, yet his pride pushes him forward anyway. The kid grins at the red test tube, feeling sure he's finally found his newest genius partner. The boy waves his mana smoke to open his inventory, filling the tiny workshop with a dark glow, and then a giant dead dragon beast bursts out of the portal, taking up half the room. With his partner staring in horror, the kid crosses his arms and casually explains that he just needs to clean up a dead body for his magic. The kid skips asking for permission, snatches a basin and snaps at the drooling researcher to stop and start helping, while the trembling blonde man whines that they haven't even signed the contract yet, feeling like he's already a worker. The scientist, sounding grumpy and defensive, says he's just letting them use the room while he thinks about the deal, but the tiny giant whispers to the kid that the human is just pretending to be shy. As he recalled his past life, the protagonist remembered how this scientist had once been used by the country's biggest company. As the kid laments this sad history, he remembers how the blonde guy's boss stole all his credit and threw the researcher down to the bottom. The hero, having understood the pain, smiles and says he trusts the genius's mind and knows their partnership will soon bring big rewards. The kid laughs at his partner and holds up a heavy ladle, daring the alchemist to prove his skills in a real fight. The blonde guy under his glasses grits his teeth and frowns as the challenge presses down on him. With laser focus, the scientist grabs the tool from the kid's hands and mutters that he's ready for the test. Perched on a pile of boxes, the protagonist casually gives orders to melt 5 low-rank mana stones, and the researcher instantly mixes them, holding up the bubbling flask for the kid to praise his speed. Impressed by the blonde's raw talent, the necromancer smirks as he carefully pours the glowing crystal liquid into the gaps in the draconian's bone armor. With purple magic glowing in his hands, the MC says he's about to carve formulas into the scales and fill them with curses. The kid explains that stacking enchantments is the secret to making a summon stronger, so the pair frantically repeat the steps as if they've been doing it their whole lives. Soaked in sweat and gasping for air, the exhausted alchemist yells as he dumps more liquid into flasks, while the kid begs for more, until finally the curse is done and the kid stares at the glowing purple scales of the creature. After stretching out and boasting that he finished the job in just 3 days, the exhausted researcher slumps into a chair, wondering who this crazy kid really was, while the confident protagonist stares at his amazing work, realizing that even though he's only level 1, he's truly something special, and the alchemist sits at his bench, admitting that this kid's magic makes no sense at all. The MC walks up quietly and offers a 60-40 profit deal that shocks the blonde man, who quickly fixes his tie and agrees right away. The kid thinks it's too easy to give up the big piece of pie, so the scientist sighs and admits it would have taken him 2 years alone, but the help was worth it, which makes the hidden hero grin with joy. With a firm handshake, the necromancer smiles and says he can't wait to use his friend's gift, already thinking hard about finding a powerful soul to put inside the new dragon. Amidst the quiet tension of the lab, a phone rings, and the young protagonist answers the newbie leader's call to thank him for the dungeon loot before eagerly jumping straight into their next mission, all while a vast uncharted forest looms ominously far away at the edge of their safe zone. With hearts pounding in their chests, the frightened new team pushes through the tall grass to reach their meeting spot. With a nod, the leader tells the group to follow him into the overgrown path, where a shivering girl worries about walking into a monster-filled forest, but a grinning kid reveals he's just collecting an old debt, while seriously checking out the dark clearing ahead. Right behind him, the team follows in a single file. The terrified giant man whispers that it's only a 2-star orc and begs the kid to stay back, but the necromancer ignores the team's warnings, grabs his huge goblin bone staff and walks right into the open area. The boy shouts the magic to control the bone, pouring all his power into it, and instantly the orc's eyes glow blood red as it stares at the brave human. The beast lets out a deafening roar and throws its massive spear straight at the hero, moving faster than anyone could ever imagine. The weapon blasts through the wind, leaving a white trail of dust behind it. Instead of ducking, the kid just calmly lifts his staff to check how hard the enemy hit. With magic guiding his hand, the hero blocks the deadly spear with his bone club, barely missing by a hair's breadth. After dodging, the player swings the staff hard, sending the orc's weapon flying back through its own shoulder from top to bottom. The MC's cold face shows he meant to strike the heart, but the monster's tough skin absorbed much of the hit, so the ogre snarls and grabs a sharp bone club to punish the kid's boldness. Blood on the ground, the monster roars and charges like a tank, raising its giant fist to smash the kid, only for the boy to calmly slip out of the way just in time, causing his massive punch to explode into a huge crater of mud and rock. As soon as a chance appeared, the team lifted their shields to stop the falling debris, and the leader shouted thanks for the perfect timing. With eyes blazing a fierce blue, the kid decided to walk away from his weaker rival. But his fingers black with dark energy, the necromancer shouts a command to control 3 bones at once, then tears the creature's ribs apart from the inside. In the horror show, the orc's chest bursts open, splashing blood everywhere as sharp bone shards poke right through its skin. The beast falls dead and hits the grass hard, sending a cloud of dust flying right into the faces of the scared hunters. The big guy stood frozen in shock, stammering as he couldn't believe the newbie had slain a double-rank monster without even breaking a sweat. The MC shrugs off the drama and calls the team forward to go deeper into the woods, where the leader follows the kid, asking if he's sure of the path and reminding him of the person the hero was looking for, while the kid confirms the suspicion by staring at the giant trees in the dark frontier. Behind the hero, a huge zombie orc made of rotting flesh trudges forward, its blood-soaked hands still gripping a spear. The kid stops at the hill's edge and points out the huge orc village, showing the hideout where his longtime target has been hiding. The armored warrior watches him with deep suspicion, wondering if the hero has truly found the right person, but without missing a beat, the hero confirms the truth with the coolest attitude imaginable. While the kid points out that their zombie target is hiding in an orc settlement, and the necromancer jokes about making extra cash, the nervous team goes along with the boss's crazy plan as the sky darkens and a giant orc suddenly collapses dead in the tall grass, kicking up a cloud of dust. As a fresh zombie minion stands behind him, our hero cheerfully accepts the system message confirming he has hit level 13. Before you knew it, the screen flashed that you've reached the maximum power limit for your race, all while a newly fallen body began to rot on the grass, leaving our hero to wonder how strange it would be if there were no end to getting stronger. Feeling proud after a great day on the farm, the kid tells the team the hunt is done and by the warmth of the bonfire, suggests they set up camp to spend the night safely. The stunned warrior praises the kid's readiness, but the kid just smiles and says they're already on their third day of the trip. Beneath the full moon, our hero sees his power has grown and decides to march to the settlement at first light. Without hesitation, the new recruit agrees and steps up to keep the first watch of the night. With everyone left speechless, the necromancer sends his huge orc minions to take over guarding. Under the pale glow of the moon, the undead stand like creepy statues around the fire, while the terrified team tosses and turns in their tents, unable to sleep because of their strange living guards. Sitting alone on a rock, the main character lets the quiet starry night wrap around him. With his dark aura swirling around him, the kid knew it was the perfect moment to dive into the newly unlocked secrets. In a blink, the system swings open the massive library of the ancient Deathlords, and as the protagonist gently touches the dark cover of a mysterious book, he quickly discovers that most of the secrets are locked away until level 45, leaving him frustrated and forced to settle for a basic necromancy guide with only 1 star. After letting out a heavy sigh, the kid gives up and starts reading the beginner's book instead. Sitting on the floor of the magical library, our hero dives into his book and devours every word of the manual. As the book's pages burst into light, pouring ancient magic straight into his mind, the boy's golden eyes flare bright until he finally grasps the power completely. As the sun crests over the mountains and the system chirps that a new skill has been unlocked, the rookie shooter back at camp lets out a big yawn and stretches his tired body. Without much patience, the protagonist yells at the kid to get out of bed, only for the rookie to wake up and stare directly into the soul of a huge zombie orc, causing him to leap back in terror while the protagonist complains that this happens every single day. The warrior sees the zombie's huge, bone-covered silhouette and realizes it's a giant monster. With a proud smirk, the kid admits he tweaked his summons a little while he was asleep. Much to everyone's shock, a whole army of armored zombies with superhuman strength is waiting for orders. Right on the panel, the new spells Bone Armor and Flesh Swarm reveal just how wild this upgrade really is. Our hero leads his elite troops and shouts that it is finally time to crush the orc settlement. Rips of red clouds tear across the sky, signaling that a bloody day has begun. Standing at the forest's edge, the human team and the undead horde stare at the giant orc fortress with its wooden walls and watchtowers, and right away a guard screams the alarm that invaders have arrived. Answering the summons, a horde of angry orcs storms out of the main gate, spears raised and ready to fight. With a green glow in his eyes, the necromancer stretches out his hand to blast a dark wave of bone spirit straight at the enemy. The spell hits the orcs so hard it smashes through their armor and weapons, breaking their front line right apart. He shakes the dust from his jacket and calmly tells the monsters to stop making so much noise. Furious at the defiance, the tribe's chief lifts his red axe and roars for a counterattack, while orc archers on the wall knock their giant bows to shoot at the invaders. As heavy arrows rain down, the warrior leaps forward and raises his magic shield to stop them all. She catches the enemy's mistake, pulls the power of the air around her, and shoots a blazing bolt of fire straight at them. The fiery missile slices through the air and strikes the enemy army dead center, burning a massive orc instantly, so the hero cheers for the girl's amazing skill and shouts a war cry as the two forces crash together in a final violent charge. Our hero steers the battle by commanding his armored minion to smash the enemies. With one powerful punch, the zombie blasts the orcs away with a wave of blue energy. The kid was so happy about spending the night reading in the library that he knew every second had been worth it. As the undead's power grows too strong, the surviving orcs panic and scramble backward, while the necromancer stares with a wild look and warns in a dark voice that this is only the start of the beating. The armored zombies crush their foes with brutal strength, ripping flesh and breaking swords, until a brave orc lands a desperate, solid blow on one of the summons. Even though the bone armor gets hurt, the zombie hardly feels it, so our hero quickly casts a spell to fix the cracks, allowing the zombie to snatch the weapon and leave the orc shocked. And suddenly changing his plan, the kid casts the crawling flesh spell right onto the blood-soaked ground. Spike-like pieces of cursed flesh fly out and pierce the backs of the unsuspecting orcs. The monsters scream in pain and collapse to their knees, frozen by the spikes growing from their own flesh, while the newbies' leader stares in shock as the kid turns their bodies into a deadly trap. Everyone's jaws dropped as the big man realized the rookie was on an entirely different level. Then a thunderous step shook the ground and silenced the entire battlefield. The scarred orc chief steps from the shadows, snarling at the invaders until his glowing red eyes snap him into a blind, raging fury. Right on the screen, the system flashes a red alert warning that the threat has grown into a unique danger, but the protagonist just cracks a smirk in his arrogant pose while admitting he's tired of waiting, even as the orc chief lets out a deafening roar and smashes the ground in preparation to pounce. Suddenly, the red warning flashes on the screen, telling us the creature has gone wild and turned into a unique monster. Our hero can't hide his excitement, so he smirks and admits that the wait is finally over. Fueled by rage, the huge monster roars and swings its giant axe, but in the next second, the necromancer's dark magic tears the orc apart from the inside, shredding its ribs through its chest with cruel precision. The massive beast lets out a terrible roar at the sky as its body rips apart from within, while the orc holds the gaping hole in shock, babbling about its broken bones. The kid mocks the enemy for whining mid-fight, while our hero sarcastically notes that both of them are slowly dying from the spell's heavy mana cost. Stunned by how much energy it took to eat 6 bones, the kid decides to end it all by piercing its heart with one final strike. Our hero locks onto the finish line and blasts the bone control spell one last time with all his might, driving the bone stakes deep into the beast's chest until he burns through nearly every drop of his spiritual energy. The orc chief is frozen still as his own bones twist and pull him into the air in a spooky, twisted show. At that moment, the kid takes a deep breath to handle the crazy cost of the move. Then our hero reaches out, slaps his hand down, and turns the fight around by draining the opponent's life. A glowing spiritual energy instantly wraps around the boy, restoring almost all his power in a single breath, and with his energy back, he tightens his fist to end the killing, while the shattered giant monster crumbles to its knees, and the terrified orcs scream and run away from their defeated leader. With a sinister green glow in his eyes, our hero asks if the cowards really think they're getting away, then casts a quick spell that makes crawling flesh sprout from the ground to grab the legs of the fleeing enemies. With no way to fight back, the monsters crash down and get swallowed by the meat trap, while dozens of orcs lie stuck in the field like bugs caught in a web, only to be finished off by a sneaky zombie minion striking from behind, all while the orc chief lies in the middle of the slaughter, with a giant bone stuck right through its heart. Staring at the huge pile of magic stones on the ground, the new players can't stop trying to figure out just how much treasure they just found. Without even looking at the small fries, the kid grabs the handle of the boss's axe and declares that this is the real grand prize. As soon as the screen showed the blood axe's power to grow stronger by drinking blood, our hero smiled, saying the trip to the orc village was totally worth the hard work. Then he told the archer Yuma to pick up all the loot while he asked for a well-deserved rest. The kid slowly walks away from the team into the dark woods until he stands before a giant tree and shouts that he has finally found what he was looking for. He casually invites the hidden entity to step out for a friendly chat. In a deadly quiet, the ancient tree stays still, so the frustrated hero sighs and grabs a sharp bone from his pack, setting it on fire and shouting that if the creature wants a fight, it's about to get one. And as the kid swings the burning bone to burn everything down, a wicked green aura suddenly erupts into a shield, blocking the attack right before it hits. As the threat strikes back, a ghostly shadow starts to rise out of the old trunk. The angry black ghost screams for the intruder's name, while our hero mutters about getting stuck with arrogant ghosts again. In a split second, the kid shifts his stance, flashes a sneer, and claims it's a massive joy to meet the entity. Our hero cuts right to the chase, pointing out that the ghost is actually the magic fighter named Kashiwagi Sora. The ghost shakes with fury at the boy knowing its secret name, while the kid confidently remembers that the ghost was a war hero from 35 years ago, even though they've already fought together in the future. The kids shared that Japan survived because of that sacrifice, so they built a stone memorial to keep the day alive forever, while the legend fought bravely on the front lines mixing martial arts with magic. After hearing this, the ghost sighed in relief that its painful death meant something, but the protagonist's face grew hard as he sadly noted that not everyone gets their name written in history, leaving the confused black spirit tilting its shadowy head in wonder. Hitting the spot, our hero asks if the entity remembers the vice master of the Archery Guild, which instantly makes the thing boil with rage and flash back to a dark memory of a city being swallowed by flames, where the past Kashiwagi screams into his radio begging for help because he's worried about the innocent civilians trapped in the agricultural district. With hope nearly gone and watching his friends fall, the hero screams his commander's name, begging for help, while admitting he can no longer hold the line. Cold and calculating, the leaders reply over the radio, refusing to help and locking in the doom of everyone there, while the fighter, stunned by the news, finally realizes his team was just bait from the start. Standing over the communicator, he calls out the cowards for running north while his team died in the south, only to have the commander laugh without a shred of guilt and admit he traded their lives for his own escape. Overwhelmed by hate, the hero realizes the guild used his sense of justice as a trap, while a disgusting traitor tells his subordinate to stop being pessimistic and just accept his own doom. The commander, brimming with pride, claims the Archery Guild will get all the credit for the rescue, yet only the survivors will be there to tell the real story. Gripping the radio tightly, the coward decides that if the team dies, the whole mess will just be swept under the rug. Just then, a monster's ridiculous punch sends the fighter flying like a ragdoll, followed instantly by a massive purple lightning bolt crashing from above to wipe the rest of the soldiers off the map. Lying in the burning rubble, the warrior fades away while a final memory shows him screaming for his team to save the civilians, but his loyal friend, weeping in the chaos, insists on staying by his side until the very last breath when the dying hero commands them to run. Back in the present, the kid throws the truth right in the ghost's face, telling him that the scumbag who betrayed them is now a national hero, and the protagonist seals it by revealing that all the real records of the ghost's bravery have been erased from history forever. The protagonist casts a sad look and says it is a true tragedy for someone to die while saving others and never find peace. The giant spirit roars in anger, demanding the kid stop beating around the bush and get to the point, while the kid grins confidently and promises to help the ghost get its long-awaited revenge. Trapped in the dark, the old hero considers a tempting offer from a child who wants to turn him into a ghost, and as blue light spills from the magic user's hands, he shows that he has already made a perfect body to hold the hero's soul. The spirit pauses, looking at the twisted monster-like dragon corpse and thinks hard about the offer. Honestly, the ghost admits that with what it has left, it couldn't even think about revenge. Floating over the dead body, the entity gives one strict rule: never use this new power to hurt anyone who is innocent. Except for that, the black spirit agrees to the deal and lets the human use him however they want, and with a small happy smile, the kid realizes that even after death, Kashiwagi's kind heart is just like it was in his life, making the hero quietly wonder if this noble spirit truly deserves to be called a hero. Under the warm glow of the late afternoon sun, our hero nods to accept the deal and promise to follow the rules. Then the specter leaps onto the corpse to bring it back to life as a summon, and right then the system pops up with a bright message confirming that he has officially claimed ownership of the earth spirit, Soku Kashiwagi. Thinking back, the kid remembers that before he lost his powers, he once had a hero's soul trapped inside the bones of a skeleton knight. As our hero admires his handiwork, the dead dragon rises before him, and its confused new eyes stare at its own thick claws as it feels the strange power of its new body. Kid couldn't hold back his excitement and pointed at the screen, shouting that the dragon was super strong because it could mix magic and fighting without any weakness. But the big lizard just grumbled that he felt a bit weaker than he used to be. After the necromancer shrugs off the incomplete curse and happily calls it a perfect start to their journey, the kid turns to his new dragon companion under the orange sky, orders him to follow back to the city, and calls out "Minion" just to see if he obeys, which freezes the beast instantly because the dragon hates that nickname and grumbles that he lost his old name when he passed and now needs a new worthy title, leaving the kid to sigh as he realizes his powerful new friend is acting far more demanding than any warrior he's met before. To impress his partner, our hero tries to come up with a scary name but admits he isn't very creative, so he suggests the dragon go by Fafnir from Norse mythology, only to have the dragon immediately rejected as too cliché. The kid quickly throws out another suggestion for the summon's name, only to get a flat no, so he grits his teeth and threatens to beat the sassy lizard. But when the dragon sheepishly admits Fafnir isn't so bad, our hero just decides to go with it and keeps walking until the summon panics and begs to stop because he's walking around practically naked. After feeling embarrassed by his naked scales on the city streets, Fafnir quickly wraps an old cloth around his waist to cover up, and once he's tied it in place, he wags his tail happily and follows his master on their walk. The shocked necromancer freezes, staring at the creature and wondering if this modesty was the hero's true nature, while in the moonlit city laboratory, a desperate blonde alchemist panics because the dragon in the tank has vanished, leaving the kid with a deadpan grin to announce he's already found the perfect soul for a new body, causing the terrified scientist to shrink into a corner and beg the monster staring him down for permission to live. Being calm, the protagonist explains that Fafnir isn't an experiment, but the team's newest partner, and in a quick flashback, the rookies say goodbye to their boss before heading to Tokyo to organize the farmed items. Back in the lab, our hero opens his inventory, filling the room with a dark green light that summons the giant orc chief's corpse they killed earlier. Crouching beside the dead man, the kid asks the alchemist what to do with the big green guy. This blonde scientist immediately drops to his knees beside the team, captivated by the material, while the kid with his own secret agenda asks if his partner wants to examine the boss's body, but the trembling alchemist lies and claims he has no interest, remembering how nearly he lost his arm mixing herbs, until the desperate scientist smashes his own equipment with a mortar and pestle, shouting that he cannot hide his curiosity. Heart pounding from fear, he looks at the body and admits the kid always brings materials that make no sense. Without slowing down, our hero casts a spell to speed things up, while a floating mini-titan watches the orc's flesh vanish and asks if he plans to make another undead, to which our hero grins and replies that more firepower never hurts in a war, just as a status panel pops up on the system to confirm the extracted skeleton is top tier and will double all stats. Once the alchemist finishes and hands the green potion to his boss, our hero pours the magic liquid over the bones to make the creature much tougher. With glowing approval, the necromancer declares his new summon a perfect bodyguard, and as if answering a call to the grave, the ghostly feet land firmly on the lab floor. Out of the dark underworld, a giant orc skeleton stands up with a glowing sword and shield, and the kid tells it to only guard him whenever he drains life. Loyal to his master, the armored skull gives a sharp salute and earns praise for its perfect stance, while the scientist rubs his temples and asks why they're building a skeleton that only defends, only for the kid to explain that unlike rotting zombies, this magic-made skeleton never decays or smells bad, leaving the researcher to admit the rookie is way ahead of his time for thinking about how to keep his troops fresh. Without making a scene, the kid says he has to go handle some urgent business, and tells the blondie to clean up the mess, so the startled alchemist asks just where the kid thinks he's going in the middle of the night. As our hero steps out of the warehouse to claim a divine spell from the Pantheon, the scientist's jaw drops in shock while the blonde guy stammers in disbelief, wondering how a dark necromancer could possibly wield holy magic. As the skeleton guard stares in stunned confusion while the kid floats away with his mini death goddess on his shoulder, joking about being a serious devotee, the desperate alchemist screams that the world can't be turned upside down like this, only for our hero to laugh and say his doubts are starting to sting. To shift the conversation, the kid dives straight into the matter and asks if his partner has finished registering the patent for the medium healing potion. Surprised by the sudden shift, the researcher hurriedly starts the review and gets praised for his speed, while the scientist warns that any delay brings rivals and sighs that advertising must wait until the expo next year, prompting the necromancer to smile and ask for a few vials to handle the promotion himself when the time is right. Without even thinking, the blonde girl hands the red potion to the kid, hoping their plan actually works. Staring intently at the glowing vial, our hero vows that if this plan succeeds, they'll soon be swimming in rivers of cash. Our hero, lost to greed, lets out a wicked laugh beneath a rain of coins, claiming that money is the only thing that truly makes the world spin. In the corner, the alchemist turns cold with fear as he stares at the kid's terrifying presence and wonders if that wild man is really a priest, while outside the moonlight shines on the giant tower that rose after the great disaster, and inside the kid watches the crowd hunting for holy magic and realizes this holy place is just obsessed with worldly things, leading him to think that the real materialists are the stars themselves demanding endless offerings from blind followers. So as he walks through the ancient relic, he finds it strange that no god is there, and asks who would leave valuable things just lying on the floor. Suddenly a drop of sweat slides down the kid's face as he realizes how hard the challenge ahead will be. The kid is so annoyed he glares up at the endless stairs and grumbles that the gods should have put in an escalator or elevator. From the outside, the tower looks ridiculous in its massive size, and our hero grumbles about the 1008 steps he must climb to show his loyalty. Out of breath, the kid listens as the tiny god admits the climb is tough and hopes they don't get struck by lightning just for complaining, while the impatient floating giant asks how much is left, and the kid dryly replies that they only have to climb back up the mountain they've already climbed. Realizing they're only halfway there, the specter grumbles while the protagonist keeps climbing without stopping, and the furious necromancer swears that unless he gets an absurd reward for all this effort, the tower will burn, until finally, the kid's heavy boot lands on the last step to reach the top of the divine structure. Suddenly, our hero's eyes met a massive hall where the ceiling shimmered with a whole universe of stars. Our hero stands frozen while the panel beeps wildly, screaming that famous stars are disgusted and suspicious of him. The giant roars with laughter at their rejection, while the kid yells at the old man to hush for a second. Shredding through space, a huge bearded god arrives to show the human that it is his turn to judge. Suddenly, the room fills with a wild ancient power that bursts forth in a brilliant flash. With a giant finger pointing at our hero, the system officially adds the defiant heavens deity to the pantheon, instantly glowing to flood our hero's arsenal with powerful holy spells, unholy blessings, and a wedge of retribution, much to the old god's swaggering pride and our hero's excited confirmation of their usefulness. But the celebration is cut short when the system reveals that this mighty being is still too weak to become a full constellation. Fuming with anger, the kid reads that the god's light is too weak to draw any followers, so he curses the notification and calls it trash. Even though his skills are poor, our hero grins wickedly at becoming a true monster as the setting sun paints the busy city orange, and he calmly walks home from his tiring job until a voice yells at him for leaving the temple. As our hero looks down the street, he is blocked by the scary blonde giant named Shijaru Satek, who forces him to remember how the bully protected him at the orphanage, only for the hero to realize this so-called friend used to cheat others and then suddenly remembers a dark past where the brute punched him in the face just to get him in trouble. Back in the present, our hero laughs and asks if the guy's nose has finally healed since he last broke it, which makes the blondie furious. Trying to keep his cool, the brute runs a hand through his hair to hide the fury about to burst out. Our aggressor puffs out his chest with pride and points to the shiny blue emblem on his shirt. The big guy brags about being hired by the famous Argari Guild, but the blonde guy leans in to scare him, sneering that our hero is just a weak hunter and that this beating will be much worse. With cold calmness, the necromancer doesn't move a muscle and dryly says nothing has changed, but the thug grinds his teeth until he snaps and gets ready to go violent right there in the middle of the street. Just as the blonde guy winds up for a punch and yells at the kid to stop being arrogant, a mysterious hand snatches his wrist before the hit can land. Just as the fight begins, Rago Joman, the captain of the 7th Squad, orders his man to stop, but the brute only stammers a desperate excuse that is quickly shut down by his leader. As the captain stares our hero down and suggests settling their feud in an official duel, our team leader rolls his eyes at the thought of a kid daring to pick a fight with the weight of the guild's name hanging over him. The captain tries to steer things toward a fair fight, but the blonde man grins wickedly and acts like he refuses, claiming it would be a coward's move to let a new hunter settle it himself. Without hesitation, our hero slams the duel agreement and stares with deadly eyes, leaving the entire guild shocked by his sudden bravery. With a wicked grin, the necromancer retorts that the big guy must be scared of the challenge, while the foaming blonde threatens our hero that there's no turning back now, and above it all, the trio steps into the circular arena of the Argari Guild's massive gym for the fight to begin. With cool confidence, the kid reveals his priest status and warns the brute that it will have to fight his dragon companion, Fafnir, while scoffing at the idea of such a terrifying beast being just a cheap summoning trick. The aggressor stops treating the beast as a joke, squeezes harder on his weapon to make sure that thing won't save the kid, and the gym floor suddenly crackles with magic to light up the official fighting runes. In a split second, the system checks everyone's health and defense in the arena to make sure the fight is fair. Chilled and deadly, the protagonist only watches as the panel announces the life shield and signals the start of the beating. Straight to the gem where glowing magic runes wake up the system for the duel, and with a swaggering grin, Blondie watches the panel check the fighter's stats. Cool and calculating, our MC just hears a warning that a shield will spring into action if he takes a fatal blow. Before they even started, the big guy mocks the kid, laughing and asking if he's so scared he'll wet his pants. To playing it cool, the necromancer just points to his ear.